Well, I'll address the most immediate release we made. We all have a responsibility to each other, to our team, to our university, to our community to make decisions with all those entities in mind. And Coach Garza failed to do so, and because of that, we'll be serving a one-game suspension this Saturday, and that's all I'm going to comment on it at this point. Bobby Daly will call defense on Saturday, and we'll move forward from here. Otherwise, taking on Weber State again, incredible challenge, facing a team for a second time within whatever it's been, 5-6 week span. Obviously, Weber's a top team in the FCS, a top team in our conference. It was a hard-fought win the first time through, back and forth affair on both sides of the ball. Obviously, special teams played a big part in the outcome that day, in the scoring that day. So we're gonna have to play real well, and I know that for us, playing our best in December is what we're after, and we're preparing real hard as we speak to do so. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Coach, congratulations on getting co-coach of the year, along with your team getting 14 players honored for all Big Sky honorees. What was that like to see all of that come out last week?
Well, I think excited for our program. First and foremost, excited for our coaching staff. It's a award that's designated to me, but our entire coaching staff should get credit for it. And I think for the guys that were honorees, again, excited for them. I do think we have a team though that is not made up of superstars. We did not have a ton of first and second team guys, and I think that's relative to the type of team we have. And I'd much rather be the champions of the league than to have the most guys, and I think that's how our team feels. So we'll take those honors and stuff and be proud of them. But obviously, we're excited about where we're at right now moving forward.
One of the crazier games of the year was Weber State. How are you feeling going into this week, knowing that you're facing them again?
Well, I think it's there's some benefit to the familiarity and understanding they have the same familiarity on their side too, having played each of the last 2 years. The way that game played out, I would assume they see themselves differently, here in December. That was at the end of October, and I know we do as well. And you look back at the game certainly with a different lens, I guess, than you look at just any other opponent. You try to look at the things that we did well, the things that we maybe allowed them to do well, and you try to correct as many those things you can, and understand they're a good team, we're a good team, and we still got to go out and put our guys in the best position to play well this coming Saturday. And there was a lot of unique things about that game, like that were isolated to special teams. And I know for us that's one main concern. We can't let their special teams go for touchdowns like they did against us. I think since then, the last 15 quarters, we've really covered kicks and punts well, and that first quarter, giving them 2 scores, probably opened our eyes as much as anything. So we have to find a way in special teams to gain an edge, and then offensively continue to build upon what we've been doing really all season. And then defensively, I think we probably played our best three quarters for sure that last Saturday out against Montana. So excited about it, and I'm sure they are as well.
Other than special teams, is there anything that you're taking away from that Weber State game that you're hoping to also correct the second time around?
Well, I think the easy thing to point to is we didn't finish in that game. We had chances on offense to extend the lead. We didn't do so. So if we're in that situation, or just even those short yardage plays that we maybe didn't convert on, how can we do better there? Defensively, the last couple drives in particular, they were able to move the ball and make it real interesting. And they have a bunch of good players. They have good quarterback, good running backs, I should say, tight ends, receivers, and I think we have we have to defend, again, much like we have, I think, more recently than we maybe were in that middle stretch of the season as we go into this game.
I'm sure you've already watched that Weber State North Dakota game, but in that 5-week difference, do you feel like they're doing anything different, or are they pretty much the same when you guys played them?
Well, I know in that game in particular, they ran the ball like crazy. That really hadn't been who they were all Big Sky season for sure. Heavy on the run side, and that, you know, that could have been game plan versus North Dakota. That could have been the weather. It certainly could have been they got the ball rolling and they got that lead, and you just tend to lean on the run. And I know they got Davis back now, so I think that would be the biggest thing. I think defensively, you know, they are who they are and have been for multiple years now. They make it hard on you because they have really good players. They can play a lot of man-to-man coverage, you know, which allows them to get +1 numbers. So I don't think they're much different. That game played out differently maybe than some of their others, and that's a credit to, I guess, their versatility offensively, that they can do it through the run or the pass.
How will Davis affect how you prepare for them as opposed to the first game when he wasn't there?
You know, I think you got to look at what types of runs better suit him maybe, you know, and they have such a stable of backs. You know, they've run 4 different guys, and they've all had a level of success. You know, does him coming back eliminate one of those guys' touches or lessen 2 of those guys' touches? That's maybe part of it too. You know, he's very dynamic, versatile, and you know, Bankston, McMillan, I mean, those guys are too. So, you know, I think they do what they do, but did they trend a little bit different run type in that game? I would suggest with him in the game they likely did a little bit. So just you focus on those run types a little bit differently.
And then you're obviously getting a All-American back as well. Just how excited are you that Isaiah's going to be finally out there, and how excited is he?
Yeah, I am really excited. I know he is as well. This has been a long process. And I know for us, beginning of fall, you know, the exact pinpointed date wasn't necessarily there at the beginning of August. As we got into October, still wasn't exactly pinpointed. As we got into, you know, the end of October, it was clear that this was going to be the week. So, you know, we've built him up, you know, physically, I guess, endurance-wise over the last several weeks. And, you know, is he, I don't know, you know, what does he compare to what he was last year physically? I think he's got a chance to be better. You know, his injury that got, you know, operated on in March was an injury that went back to the beginning of 19. That's a long time to be playing with that, and obviously the timing of it wasn't great for this fall, but, you know, he's healthy now, and I know we're real excited to insert him into what we've been doing. I think he'll certainly give us something we haven't had. Not that that's anything against whether it's been Elijah, Lane, Garrett, any of those guys. He's just different. You know, he's different between the tackles for sure. He's hard to tackle. He's one of the hardest guys to tackle that I've ever had the fortune of being around. So, you know, we're really excited. I know he is as well.
Was there a chance he could have played Cat Grizz, or you said this is the week, so this is?
No, I think as it became, you know, end of so let's say a month out, a month ago, the surgeon wasn't comfortable budging with the date. So, you know, this is what we had in mind. So there was no emergency or anything like that. 2 Saturdays ago, it was you know, get him out there, warm him up again, and you know, get him ready for the next game, which is this coming Saturday.
Is Lane still out, I'm guessing?
Lane is out. Lane will miss the remainder of the season.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other injury updates or?
Yeah, Brody's on the mend. I know Brody got out and played a handful of plays against Montana, which was situational, like we probably anticipated would be the best case. Kyle Rigg got out and played, you know, a handful of plays, so he's in the mix. What does that mean? Hard to say. Nolan did go down, and that'll be season ending for him, unfortunately. You know, Danny I know went down, but Danny will be back in this game. And offensively, yeah, we gain Isaiah back. Lane won't be back, and that's probably the update on offense. Jahari, I know, played too in that game against. So I think he's close to full strength.
Anything more, I guess you could say about Nolan's injury and just what happened exactly?
Yeah, I was on the space. He was in the injury, and it was unfortunate. It was a non-contact deal. He tried to go back out and play, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So.
And Kyle, I mean, obviously a crazy long absence. What's that road been like for him, and just how did you feel when he was able to get back?
His knee injury was devastating, in the grand scheme of things as far as knee injuries go in this day and age. And that was the beginning of September of last season. So, his timeline and the unpredictability with his return, I think was fluid until maybe last week. And I think for him, it came down to, do I give it a go? I'm not necessarily 100%, but do I give it a go and just play it out on his own terms, I guess. And that's what he chose to do. Not only go through senior day and dress out, but then take an opportunity to get in the game and now work towards an opportunity to continue to help us out. And credit to him just hanging in there, I guess, because a lot of points in time, I think the news that he was getting, the results that he was getting, was not what he had hoped for. And here he is with a chance to finish out his career, and could be happier for him.
I mean, that's 3 guys basically this year that have missed most of it and a ton of time. And I guess, what does that say about, do you think, the culture and just how much does that galvanize other guys on the team?
Yeah, I think especially in this weird era of these 6-year guys like Coy and Kyle, who have long graduated, and trying just to navigate that part and whether you move on, in the real world, so to speak. And I think, yeah, this program matters a lot to a lot of people, and I think, Coy and Kyle in particular exemplify that, their opportunity to continue to be part of it was so dang important. Isaiah is a little bit different, this is his 5th year. I think it was an injury that he was going to be able to come back from no matter what. The other 2 wasn't necessarily the case, but the same thing goes for Isaiah, wanting to, come back and obviously contribute and hopefully cap off what's been already a great career here, not only this fall, but next year as well.
And I guess one more thing on Isaiah, I mean, you mentioned that this was kind of the plan all along, that we couldn't have come back really at Cat Grizz, or that wasn't the plan. So when did it become sort of a discussion of like, hey, let's, maybe redshirt and
well, that, to me, that was going to be completely dependent on how this fall worked out. If the fall worked out where he could play X number of games and that wouldn't allow him a red shirt, that's fine. If it worked out the way it has now and he won't exceed 4, that's fine too. So it was never going to be about holding him back for another year. It was just going to be, we got to play the timeline out the best we can. The timeline on the front end was less than ideal. He was planning on having that surgery as soon as we were done last year. Obviously, we're not finished until January. He hurt his other knee at Sam Houston. Had to have that one operated on first, and that's kind of how it all played out. And I appreciated him from the get-go, just saying we're going to deal with this timeline the best that we can, and not try to force it, and ultimately wanting him to come out on the other side as healthy as possible. He's worked real hard, and I think that's where he's at right now. And while we've been vague about it, there was some vagueness with it, and describing everything and laying out all the details is not part of the deal. So I appreciate you guys just going along with the vagueness.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's crazy too, that he was basically playing on 2 injured knees in the title game, and I mean, he's rushed for 85 yards. I mean, I'm sure that's not surprising to you, but just it's pretty crazy to
yeah, and knowing that him coming back for that game would set this fall back. I mean, that was all part of it. But playing in that game was important to him. It was obviously important to our team, and he let it all play out on the other side the way it has. And fortunately for us, we're here in a situation where we've been able to find ways to run the football without him. We've had other guys step up at that position, and here we are with an opportunity to bring back one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the country, once playoffs starts. So we'll utilize him obviously, and I think we're different from where we were last year and how we need to utilize him, but at the same time he'll get his opportunities.
And Blake thought that was the best defensive performance in Cat Grizz that you've had all year. Do you agree? And I guess how do you feel about how the defense is playing?
Yeah, I thought the last couple of weeks and in two different opponents, but I think we've answered the bell. In each of the last 2 weeks, those teams have scored on our 2s and 3s, and but I'm looking at when our 1s are out there. We've been really disruptive. We've been able to stop the run. We've been able to disrupt passers. We've been able to cover better, not perfect, but better, and play the type of defense that is our standard, and really the type of defense that will complement our offense and allow us to put our best foot forward each one of these weeks that we get an opportunity to keep playing. And this week it's about Weber, and we need to play better defensively than we did the first time around. Find those things that we did pretty well, and we got a good stretch of defense in that game. So no, I think that last Saturday was a great one to build off of, and I think our guys are playing with a different level of confidence now than say a month ago.
It seems like Brody obviously got recognized, but hasn't put up a ton of stats. Blake is not a ton of stats, but it seems like he's been playing pretty well. How do you feel like those guys on the defensive line especially have been playing, even though the numbers maybe aren't as high as Sebastian?
Yeah, I think that group's played really well, and you look at the 4 starters, Brody, Blake, Sebastian, and Ben Seymour. I think they've all had really good years, and the numbers are maybe more spread out, so to speak, and maybe not as high as Daniel certainly had last year, but consistency-wise, that group's played really well, and the emergence of Paul Broad and Kenny Iden, probably in particular in that second wave. Zach Black's played more and more, so we're in a place that we hope to maybe get to eventually this year, and with that group where we can roll a bunch of guys out there, we can keep them fresh, they can get after the quarterback, and that's definitely where our defense starts, and we got to play really well up front from here on out.
It's kind of a cliche saying, but you don't get many second chances in life. Weber State obviously gets one against you guys, but you guys also get one too, just to clean up everything that happened in that Weber State game. What's the message in the locker room this week, just as far as you're playing against this team again? Yeah,
I think use the previous games to our benefit. Anytime you play those teams every year anyways, or almost every year anyways, so there's a familiarity with that. Use that to our benefit. I've been part of a couple of these games before where you turn around and play someone pretty quickly, and I think you got to take the good from the previous performances, correct what wasn't so good, know that they're going to do the same thing, and not overthink it. We got to go out there and play well. They're a good team. They're well coached. I think they play really hard, and they are good in all 3 phases. So we have to be good in all 3 phases. No, I think our guys are excited about it. Worrying about who we play and all that stuff isn't the way this team is made up, and I'm happy we're playing it here in Bozeman, and excited to keep playing football.
This year compared to last year, obviously a lot of differences in quarterbacks and things like that. How is the prep, I guess, compared, contrasted just from this time last year?
Well, I would say, because of that factor, the quarterback switch last year, it's quite a bit different. I think we're much more settled in on both sides of the football, and special teams for that matter. Last year we were coming off probably our poorest performance of the season. Certainly offensively it was, and we're licking our wounds more now. On the other side of it, we played really well in a real big game to close out the regular season. We can't be too high either. We have to be able to come back down to earth, which we have, and go back to work, and understand it's about continue to replicate the efforts that we have been putting in each week, as opposed to thinking we have it all made. So, I think considerably different than this time last year, and our opponents considerably different too. We were playing an unknown in Tennessee Martin last year. This year we're playing an unknown, and honestly a team that could have very easily been seeded. So we got to work cut out for us.
And then offensively, I mean, obviously night and day from last year. What is specifically with Housewright and some of the play calling has evolved? I mean, obviously the outside zone part of it, but what have you kind of seen from him specifically, and how the offensive playbook has evolved?
Well, yeah, I think just our identity is clear. We're clear. Who we are, what we can do. I do think we have a wide variety of playmakers, which is good. It's complicated too. You got to figure out a way to get them all the ball. Last year, if it wasn't Lance, it was Isaiah, and if it wasn't Isaiah, it was Lance. I mean, that's really what it was through the course of the regular season. And I think we're forcing defenses to defend so much more field now, and that's the width of the field. It still can be the length of the field at times, and that's hard. And we've been able to, I think, continue to do things very similar for our offensive line, so they can play at a pretty high clip, but then mask things and disguise things, whether it's with motion or who we're giving the ball to, that it complicates things for the defense. So no, I think it's an evolution of our offense for sure. It's continued evolution for Taylor, just creating a game plan along with the offensive staff, and then executing it and calling it on Saturdays, and having a real clear vision of who can make plays, and then how we're going to make it, and letting them go do it. And that was last November, October. That was pretty complicated for us. And that's just the way it goes. I mean, I don't know that he's any smarter or anything like that. I mean, it doesn't work that way. It's sometimes it's about your guys. What are your guys capable of doing, and can they do it at a high rate, and can you put them in position? And I think we're continuing to find ways to do that.
Trayton Pickering, how did he kind of prove himself, at the beginning of the season, that he could do a bigger job and kind of provide a bigger role on the team this year?
Yeah, Trayton's had a really consistent year, and I spoke to him, or spoke of him and Derek, both being guys that had, I think, good sophomore years last year, but they needed to take their game to another level. And Trayton, I think, has been super consistent all year blocking, and when he's been given an opportunity to catch the football, he's been really good. And they're weapons in their own right, and I think we've been able to utilize them quite well throughout the season. So just pleased with their continued dedication to getting better. They could have rested on their laurels. Both of them could have been okay, but they had the mind to get better and better, and they've done that. And Derek got recognized as all conference, and I would suggest that Trayton's right there as well. Derek's a little bit more versatile and maybe just jumps out a little bit more with all the things he's been able to do, but Trayton's been really solid, and been really pleased with how he's played this year.
And if you had to narrow it down to just one thing, there's a lot of good things working for Weber State, obviously, but first time around, what did you think was the biggest challenge when playing them?
Oh, well, I'd say in that game we gave up 2 returns, no question about it. In that game, we have a pick right out the gate that we fortunately held them to the field goal, and that first quarter, it's like we spotted them 17 points. So, not to say that their running game, how it complements with their RPO game, I mean, is they're really challenging there. They're using our tight end, number 88, more and more as the season's gone along. So it's a lot of things, and defensively, they can cover, and they got a whole host of good athletes that play really hard. So I think it's not one thing with them. I think in that game though, it definitely, I would say, if we can find a way to get the returners down, we're going to be a lot better on that Saturday in particular. So we got to look at that. We got to play well on special teams, but offense, defense, they provide some real challenges as well.
Yeah, Blake was kind of talking about that O-line. He even went as far as to say that he thinks they're probably the best in the conference. Is there any emphasis on just attacking that ball quickly?
Well, I think we have to just allow our guys to play fast up front, and if that means we move. I mean, we move a fair amount, but we're in a little bit different place than we were last year. I felt like we had to move all the time last year, and so letting our guys come off the ball, to your point, and be the aggressor is definitely got to be part of it.
Coulter, do you have anything?
Yeah, hey, Coach, just a couple from me. First of all, just watching the FCS playoffs across the country this week, Weber State definitely looks like one of the best teams. So what do you think the fact that your first playoff game is against that I-10 win team that was ranked in the top 10 all year?
Oh, you're getting me to try to get on the playoff community here. I'm not going to do that. No, you know what? This isn't a this year thing. 2012, I don't know. I mean, we played South Dakota State second round. I don't even know where they were at, but it is what it is. They put the bracket together. You play the team that's in front of you, and if they have a gripe because they weren't seeded, that's probably more the gripe than we are sitting here saying, why are we playing them, I guess. I mean, you're going to have to play good teams all the way through it, and they're just happen to be the team that we're playing. But they are, they've been a really good team all year. 2 close losses to the 2 and the 4 seeds, and beat Utah State pretty handily. So we'll have our hands full.
Well, on that note, you guys played some of the best teams in the country during last year's run. So how much does that help in terms of the confidence of the guys knowing that you have beat some of the best teams in the country in the playoffs? Yeah,
I think that's just what you got to expect. You get in, however it lays out, you should anticipate that. Look at there's 16 teams left, and let's say there's 16 really good teams out there, and whoever you play, you're gonna have to go and play well, and there's no handouts, or shouldn't be at the very least at this point in time of the season. So no, I think our guys, we went on the road and beat the top seeded team last year. We came back home, and even though South Dakota State wasn't a seeded team, they were a really good team last year, and it's just the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be challenged this time of year, and like I said, Weber's an obvious challenge for us.
You mentioned just how important special teams is going to be in this game, and their main returners have an unbelievable year. But it seems like you guys have really improved in terms of coverage since that Weber game. Where have you seen that?
Well, those two plays in particular, we had guys in place we didn't make plays, and we challenged them within that game. We had to keep kicking off because we scored a bunch of points that day, and we had to keep figuring out a way. And certainly Blake Lesner's a huge weapon when he can kick the ball in the end zone. And Blake, I think, has the highest touchback percentage in the country at FCS. So that's important. We're playing at home, so Blake should have a chance to do that. Punting wise, where we place the ball has been probably more valued than just pure distance, and Bryce has done a great job of that. And fortunately, he hasn't punted in a couple weeks, but if he gets those opportunities, he's going to have to make it hard on them. So, and we shuffled the deck a little bit. We had a bye after that Weber week, and we changed our personnel a little bit on the coverage teams. And I think covering kicks against Montana and doing a very, very good job at that against their return game, I think was a good sign of where we're at. But we'll have to do it again for sure. And it's certainly part about scheme, but it's guys trusting that scheme, doing their job, and then when they get an opportunity to go after. And I just think since that first quarter of that game, we've done a better job of just having a relentless way about us when we go after the football.
Building most of the blame for me on the diversity of the run game. Just want to ask you specifically about Elijah Elliott just staying ready like you guys you're working out about.
Yeah, really appreciate Elijah, and I think Elijah had his best game against Montana in that last game. It's the hardest he's run. It's the most tackles he's broke now. You know, and for him to ride this wave, which you know, initially started with him, you know, way down the depth chart, you know, not knowing when his opportunity was gonna come. Ultimately, you know, we kind of went out to Oregon State that third game, and we're playing with two quarterbacks in mind more than we were even playing with running backs. And we went to, you know, got into conference play, and you know, he made the most of that opportunity that day and has continued to do so. And you know, Lane's been inserted back in and now out. Now Isaiah will be inserted back in his role isn't necessarily defined going into any one of these Saturdays, but you know, just appreciate him hanging in there, because you know, if we don't have Elijah Elliott and his consistency through the course of the season, not sure exactly where we'd be.
And the last one for me, Trey Pickering actually pointed this out. The 5 guaranteed days left of football, and for some guys that might be the last 5 days guaranteed that they have left in their careers. How do you sort of embrace that and not have it be pressured on you?
Well, you know, I think you make it clear it's win or go home. It's survive in advance. I mean, all those phrases, and you know, you just want to make sure you through the week of preparation, in this case 2 weeks, you leave no stone unturned. You don't have any regrets as far as your preparation. You certainly don't have any regrets as far as your effort on Saturday. You know, and if you can play that way, and if you can think that way, you like to think the score will take care of itself. You know, if you don't do this or don't do that, and then you get through Saturday and the result isn't what you want, then you have some real challenges. So, you know, really focus on, you know, our process, our preparation, and you know, don't get caught up into, you know, the what ifs if this doesn't go right. Just go out there and play the best we can, and leave it all out there.